Welcome to the Hastings Shadmary Show.
I'm Andee Hastings.
And I'm Mali Shadmary.
Together, we own Hastings Shadmary, an Atlanta-based law firm specializing in family law.
This is a space where we talk all things family law and all topics that touch the area of family law, from divorce to custody to self-growth, personal empowerment, and more. We bring you the truth, from our wolf pack to yours. Hello, and welcome to the Hastings Shadmary Show. I'm Mali Shadmary.
I'm Andee Hastings.
And today, the dynamic duo is back in action.
Thank God.
It's been a little while.
I know. I've missed you.
I've missed you. Today, we're going to be talking about marital balance sheets. What are they? How do we use them? How do they impact your case? But before we get into that, you know what I'm about to do. I'm about to check in. I've missed you all. I've been out of whatever the word is, out of commission in the podcast world for a little while, I feel. Andy's been in it a little more frequently than me. We're coming back. We're still the Hastings Shadmary Show. Notice I said still. Some fun updates coming to you soon. And I'm so excited for that. So,
me too.
Aside from those updates, which that was just a small alert, we'll share the real stuff later. Tell us what's been going on in Andee world, and are you a warrior or a diplomat today?
Andee world. You know, we've got a lot of cases going to trial back to back, and which I love, but it takes a lot of our focus. And you've been dealing with the same thing, which is part of the reason why you've been out of podcast world. So that's all good, no complaints. And am I feeling like a warrior or a diplomat? I would say right at this moment, definitely a warrior.
Okay.
Just got notice for another trial yesterday in a case that's very near and dear to my heart, client, and some really special children, although they all are. I say that every time. So definitely feeling like a warrior, ready to ramp up and take care of business.
Oh, and that she will do. And I'm hoping I get to go to trial with you for that.
I hope so too, actually. I think that'll be fun.
It's always fun. We just had a trial together in July, which was a blast. It was a lot of work, tough trial, great results. We're very thrilled about it.
Yes.
But that was a doozy, huh?
It was a whole week.
Whole week of trial. How did you recover from that?
I'm not sure I'm totally recovered yet.
Right?
I mean, actually, that's not true. It's hard because it's like anything. You have this huge adrenaline rush, and you're going for 18 hours a day. The hours you're in court, plus the hours beforehand, hours after. Fine tuning and changing things, and adjusting as you go. And then when it comes to an end, it's like hitting a brick wall.
Totally.
And I know you know this because you go through the same thing. And so part of it is just decompressing from that, which I think just takes time. It's hard to rest after that, but it's what you need because let's be real, nobody gets any rest on the ramp up and during trial.
Totally.
What about you?
I think I'm going to pick up on what you were just saying. And then I'll tell you if I'm a warrior or a diplomat and give you guys a little Mali update. But I think if you really want to know in my opinion, what a good trial attorney feels like during and after a trial, leading up to a trial, that's all we think about. We eat, sleep, breathe, dream. Literally dream about what are we going to argue in court, all these things. And so leading up to a huge trial like we had, we're working day in and day out, usually all weekends, usually evenings, for about a month. Of course, we were in prep for that case for over a year. You're managing your case, you know what's going on. But some cases are going to require a lot more attention when it's time to really, bring the hammer to the table and go to trial. So for a case like that, we prepped day in and day out for about a month. You really don't have much of a life outside of that. And it is up to us to be responsible attorneys to make space for ourselves and take care of your health and things like that. But it is hard. And a good lawyer, a good trial lawyer, and this is the kind of person I would want to be represented by if my life was in their hands, they will stop at nothing to get the results. And we did that. We did that. Okay? We did that.
Around the clock.
And that's why we have such a great time, A, running a business together, but B, being in the trenches and trying cases together. I can't try cases with everyone. You can't try cases with everyone. It has to be the right fit. If I'm going to battle, I got to have a warrior by my side, and I got to be able to trust my life is in her hands and vice versa. That's how seriously we take our prep. And there are tears. There are phone calls of, I'm tired. And we have each other's backs. I mean, I probably lost 20 pounds that whole month. You did too. And I mean, it was hard on us.
Yes.
And what happens during the trial is we are on the battlefield. We disappear. And that's all we can see is, how am I going to win? And we did it. And then the come down from that is a lot. After months, if not over months, but especially the month leading up to a trial like that, your nervous system is in fight or flight constantly. And it doesn't just turn off overnight. Lawyers are going to take a minute to come back down, responsible ones. It can become a problem if you're constantly not giving yourself the rest. But like you said too, I don't know if I'm fully recovered yet. But what that means is, we get off of a trial like that, you have to pick up the pieces of other things you haven't been paying attention to as much, to make up for that lost time, and then take care of your body and your spirit. And that takes some serious work, some serious weekends of downtime. I can't really be around a lot of people after a trial. I'm short-tempered. I'm short-fused. I have to replenish myself. So, to our lawyers listening out there, like, we see you. It's hard work. And to clients, to the audience, I just want to share that kind of stuff with you guys, that what kind of intensity the wolf pack brings to the table, and it's not for the faint of heart.
No, it's not. Family
law is not. These are people's lives and their money and their children and their whole being. And so we take that really seriously. And I'm very proud to get to do it all with this lady right here. Like I said, because we put our all into this. So that's a little update for you guys about where we've been, what we've been doing. And I'm a diplomat. A diplomat. I have been in the trenches of bodybuilding as well as trial. Coming out of the trial, I have been working with a new lawyer, and we have a couple new lawyers at the firm. So been just helping get that team up and running, and been in and out of the courtroom some, not as involved as this huge trial Andee and I were in. And with bodybuilding, I'm deep into a cut. So if you're watching, you've seen me at my bulk at 180 pounds. You've seen me now at 144 pounds. And you'll see me get a little lower than that before I compete, which is going to be probably sometime in November. So y'all will get to hear little bits and pieces about that journey. But that's, to be changing my body and not be my, strongest physical self, because you're tired, you're in a caloric deficit, all these things. I really have to stay focused on what are my needs, what are the needs of the business, what are the needs of my clients. And to do that, I have to have a diplomatic mindset and really preserve when the warrior is going to come out, because she needs to be protected and only used when we really need her, or else I'll burn out right now. So that's where I'm at. I'm a diplomat, just trying to keep things moving, get myself right before it's time to go be a warrior.
And also, let me just say, I love you normalizing talking about weight. As women, we never do that. It's like, because you're perfect. You're beautiful all the time. I mean that.
You too.
And your weight, it really is just a number. But I think it's huge for us to really real talk about stuff like that, because women never want to say.
Yes.
Regardless, if you feel like you look great or if you feel like you don't, nobody ever wants to talk about that. So
I so agree, and thank you for saying that. And yes, to our audience, I mean, sorry, we're mixing up topics today.
We're all over the place.
I mean, it's true, and I do like to normalize that, and bodybuilding allows me to share that kind of stuff, and I think it is important, so thank you.
Well, and if you don't know, something you need to know about Mali Shad-Mary is she is one of the biggest cheerleaders for other people, particularly other women, that you will ever meet. And so if you ever are feeling down and want to pick me up just as a human, as a woman, as a person, this is your girl.
Thank you, Andee. And I get the same from her, so don't get it twisted. This is also a cheerleader by my side. But you're right. That's one thing I enjoy so much, is loving our people and who we surround ourselves with, and seeing people shine, and you included. And y'all have no idea the pep talks this lady gives me as well. So I love you for that. Thank you.
I love you too.
All right. There we go. There's our heartfelt stuff. Now let's talk business.
Check.
Let's talk marital balance sheets.
Let's talk.
Andee, what is a marital balance sheet?
It's exactly what it sounds like. It's one of my favorite parts of cases because it involves numbers.
Yes.
But basically what we do in most every case is we create a worksheet where we collect all of your assets and your debts, and we put together, what your total net worth is. And then we also use it generally to help divide up those assets and debts when we're going through the divorce case. That's the high level.
Yes.
So, but there's lots of, categories and things that we do with it underneath that.
Right. Okay. So I'll add to that. So correct. Andee says balance sheet, marital balance sheet, MBS, we call it sometimes. It needs to be done in every divorce case. And it should be, your lawyer should be starting to put that together pretty early on in your case. And the purpose of it is, like Andee said, it's to have a list, basically, of all of your assets and your debts in one place.
Yes.
And then we add columns to this worksheet, this spreadsheet, that give us the proposed division. How do we want to divide the assets and the debts? And as Andee was saying, we categorize the balance sheet based on the different types of assets and debts that you have. So, Andee, could you tell us what are the different categories that we would include? If I come to you as a client and I say, okay, I've got certain bank accounts, I've got retirement, I've got a house, I've got life insurance with cash value, I've got these debts, whatever it is, what would you do with that? And what are the categories on paper that you would start to put out there?
Okay, so we usually start at the top with bank accounts. And that includes checking and savings. It includes money market accounts, investment accounts, anything basically that's not retirement.
And let me just, what's the word? Not intersect. Y'all are going to have to get used to with me in prep brain.
Interrupt?
And not a lot of carbs. Yeah, I don't know what I'm trying to say.
You just say it. It's
Let
okay.
me interrupt. Let me use my bodybuilder meathead brain and just talk. Okay, so I'm interrupting Andee. What we literally mean is she's saying bank accounts and cash accounts, they are at the top of the balance sheet usually, which means we are literally going to list Wells Fargo and then the last 4 digits of your account. If you've got First Citizens account, Bank of America account, whatever it is, we're listing each individual bank account. And what else are we listing about the account?
We're listing whether or not it's held jointly or if it's in one party's name or the other. We'll list the date of the statement so that as we're updating it through the course of the case and on the eve of mediation or trial, we know if we've got the most recent statement or where we got the information from, because there may be bank accounts where we don't have a statement for it, but it's something that the opposing party has represented to us. And so we'll note where we get the information from. And we go through with every single statement and
list the value
Yes.
of each account. So we've got all the cash accounts. And then don't be worried. If you don't know what all of your assets and your debts are, that's exactly what Andee's getting at, is we put a placeholder in that balance sheet. Well, we know we've got a Wells Fargo account here. It's in his or her name. And the source where we figured that out was the client, and we'll have to get documents on that and fill in the value later. Okay.
Right.
So then we have cash accounts, and we'll total those at
Right.
the end of the cash. Okay.
And then typically we move on in the balance sheet organizationally. I just follow it the way we normally do.
I do too.
So next section is typically retirement, IRAs, 401ks, anything in the nature of retirement assets. And we list the same thing. We list what financial institution holds the account, the last 4 digits, the current value, and the date of the value. So we just go through everything that way. And if there is a separate property component to any of these, we also do note that, but we'll circle back around to that.
Yeah.
And then typically after that, we deal with real property. So if you have a home, we'll list the value of that. We'll list the value is usually based on an appraisal. Occasionally we'll use Zillow or something like that as a placeholder for value if both parties can agree, but they can be, especially in these tumultuous housing market times, they can be a little off as far as the value. So we'll list the appraisal, the date of the appraisal, because they become stale and we might need to update it. And then we also, underneath that, if there's any debt on the marital home, we'll list what the debt is and net it out. And then after that, we typically move to like personal property, those sorts of things, because sometimes people have vehicles, of course, and if we can get a Kelley Blue Book value for that, or if you have valuable personal property items like expensive watches or boats or, other
golf carts,
Yes,
toys.
Exactly.
It could be anything in the world. I'll even throw sometimes pets on there, not to put a value on a pet. I've never put a value on a pet in a divorce, but like just to capture these are the things that we have so that we know there's a visual representation of the entire estate. So that's the personal property piece. A couple things that I would add in the asset department as well is usually I'll always include under the cash accounts, investment accounts.
Yes.
So, any investment accounts, same thing. They're treated like bank accounts, but they go on there. And if there is a business, if there's a business involved, somebody owns a business in the marriage, we're going to put that on the balance sheet as well. And determining a value for the business can be complicated. That's another topic. You either get an valuation, or we kind of try to back into our own valuation by just looking at assets. It just depends on the nature of the business.
Right.
And so once we've got all of our assets listed, we total all the assets. So you might have $1 million worth of assets, and that's all shown. It's illustrated, line item by line item. Each line item has a number by it, so we can refer easy. Say, look at line 5, and we all know that's your checking account, and we talk about it. And the reason for that is because we're going to use this document throughout negotiations as a visual representation as we go through things with you as your lawyers. We sometimes share them with opposing counsel or a forensic accountant or a mediator to say, hey, here's the estate. Here's how we need to divide things. And then even more importantly, at trial. I mean, if you go to trial without a balance sheet, that is just a rookie move. Can't be nice about that. Don't do that. And it happens a lot. And if I were a judge,
yes, it does.
I really think I would be like, get out of my courtroom until you bring me a balance sheet. I really think I would.
We just had an experience with that.
We did. And imagine me, not a numbers girl, as a judge without a balance sheet. Are you kidding me? I would have to have that.
Yes.
So
it wasn't us that showed up in court without a balance sheet,
no,
for the record.
No. Never. But honestly, from the moment we do an opening statement, I know judges that like me to show them the balance sheet when we're there doing an opening. They live and breathe and die by this balance sheet. The judges will usually have a balance sheet up on the table that we've given them early on in the trial. You'll see them doing chicken scratch on it and moving numbers around because they're doing the math and they want to do that. We're making their job easier by giving them a balance sheet, and we're making their job even more easy when we give them a balance sheet. It's well put together. It's done in our favor. The easier we make the judge's job, the more likely it is that we're going to get what we want in court.
Exactly.
But I'm not going to share too much more with you because those are trade secrets. So those are some small secrets, though. And so we've talked about the asset section.
Yes.
Then once we total all of our assets, categorize them, then we go into debts. What does that look like?
It depends on the kinds of debts that you have. Most people these days have some amount of credit card debts. So we'll list credit cards, any sort of personal loans, and anything except for the debt on the home, which we usually include in the personal property section, or if somebody has, say, a loan against a 401k, we'll include that in the retirement section as well. So just your standard things which you owe people. Sometimes people take loans from family members or something like that in order to pay legal fees. We'll include that on there.
Tax debt is often something we're dealing with.
Yes.
Random student loans are on there, which brings us to this. Well, we'll talk about that in a second. So once we total all the debts, we're going to have two totals. We have a total of all the assets, and we have total of all the debts. So then what do we do with that at the bottom line?
We net it out so that we can have an understanding of the total value of the marital estate, which is simply put, your assets net of your debts.
And so this might sound obvious, but obviously we're going to want a balance sheet that benefits our position in the case. And the way we have the strongest position in our case is to develop this balance sheet quickly. It's 11:11 right now.
I saw that.
Make a wish. Producer Ned put a clock in here, so that is his fault because ADD. But 11:11, so you're welcome, guys. We wished for you. So
I'm not telling my wish.
We are going to benefit in our case if we have a strongly engineered balance sheet. This is not as simple as pull some numbers and stick them on a piece of paper. They're strategically chosen. And when we can see weaknesses in a balance sheet early on, there are ways to work around that. And so the other side is going to have a totally different balance sheet than we will, usually. They're going to value some assets higher, some debts lower. You just never know. So that's one of the reasons why it's so important to get started on one quickly and use it as one of the, heartbeats of your case. Keep it, be centralized towards your balance sheet throughout the case. So we're going to net it out at the bottom. And one of the common things that we see is that there's separate value to the marital estate. So marital property is property that's, for the most part, been acquired from the date of marriage through the date of divorce. Separate property, how would you define that?
It's anything that you had before the marriage that you have not mixed in with marital assets. That's an entirely different show. Or if you've inherited assets or accounts during the marriage, again, as long as they're not just dumped into a marital account, if you keep them separate and you can demonstrate that.
Yep. And occasionally, like if we're talking about retirement or, student loans is one that I see sometimes. Student loans are typically separate property because usually what I'll see is my clients have taken the student loans out prior to the marriage, making them separate. Sometimes if they take student loans out during the marriage, it makes it a marital debt. Then the question is it equitable that we share in that? But we can talk about that. But in retirement is usually partially marital, partially separate, because usually people will get some retirement prior to marriage. That portion should be deemed separate, and then you continue to earn retirement during the marriage, and that portion should be deemed marital. And it's a little bit complicated sometimes, and you have to be able to illustrate that on the balance sheet. So Andee brought that up earlier, and it's actually very simple. We make it look simple after a lot of calculating in the background. What we do is we have a column that says this is the marital estate, this is the marital value, all the marital assets, marital debts, and here's the net, assets minus debts. Then we would add a couple extra columns on a balance sheet that says this is the separate value, and we just separate out from the overall value what should be separate property, because the court's going to take that into account as well.
Right.
It's a very basic way of explaining that.
Yes.
And so we've talked on the podcast before about equitable division. So what are we going for at the end of the day when we present this balance sheet to a judge? We're going for equitable division. Can you sort of summarize for us that piece?
Yeah, so like Mali said, we have a column for the total of all the assets, and then if there is any separate property, we'll list those in a column for each spouse and total those at the bottom. But then we'll add 2 more columns with the proposed division between the spouses. And so that's a strategy conversation as far as, because not all assets are created equal, literally and figuratively. A retirement account worth $100,000 is not the same as $100,000 in equity in a house. And so part of what we do, and it depends on the strategy of the case, which side we are on, and what we're trying to accomplish, is we'll prepare a proposed division, like of this account, this spouse should get this much, this spouse should get this much, or they should get all of it in exchange for this. And so we go through and do a proposed division. And the key with all of it, the balance sheet, the proposed division, is it's an opportunity to build credibility with the court. You want your values to be absolutely accurate, as current as possible, because that builds credibility. If the judge knows that they can rely on the information you've given them as being the most accurate, then they're going to adopt your balance. They're more likely to adopt your balance sheet. And then also with your proposed division, don't take dumb stances. You have to know your audience. Of course, you have to know your audience at all times in these cases, but definitely with your balance sheet too. So, sometimes people will they'll say, well, I want to keep 75% of all of the assets. And I want that for you too. But whether or not a judge is going to do that is a totally different scenario. And so we take all those factors into account in coming up with what the proposed division should be.
Yes. And I think that my ending note personally on balance sheets is just to stress how important they are, that they're needed even in the most basic of cases, I would say, up to the most complex. And you can go from a 1-page balance sheet to a 5-page balance sheet. The more complex the estate is, $50 million, $100 million, $200 million, whatever it is, it needs to be on a balance sheet. And you're going to see in the most complex of cases, typically we hire a forensic accountant to complete the balance sheet. And those are, usually multiple page long balance sheets. There's usually multiple businesses involved, 10 pieces of real property to go through, and it becomes a competition with the other side. They're going to appraise all the same properties that we are and come in with a lower appraisal because that's going to benefit their case more. They're going to want to value the business as higher than we did. So then it becomes conflicting balance sheets, and that's a large part of the trial. And again, to build credibility means you need to, from the moment you walk in that courtroom, hand off a very easy to follow and thorough balance sheet. And then, in the most complex cases, we're going to have the expert, the forensic accountant, sit there in court and testify about the balance sheet. And so the balance sheet is an ever-changing document. It's part of why your lawyer should be asking you throughout your case, I need updated statements this month. I need to get updated values, We're always continuing to update it. It needs to be the most recent values. So please work with your lawyer. Take their requests seriously. Get them information quickly. Ask to see your balance sheet. Ask to have a discussion about it. That's beautiful. You need to be aware. Balance sheets, that's kind of all I got. What else do you have? Any other thoughts on them?
The only thing I would say about that is it's not uncommon, especially in the ramp up to trial when we're asking our clients for updated statements, is that they get very frustrated. Not because they don't understand the importance of it, but because, let's say, the other side is not being as forthcoming with documents, or one side feels like they're doing all the work and collecting all of the information, and they don't want to get it so readily because it's going to help the other side. And just as a reminder, what the other side does with the information is a totally separate issue. So just know that your attorney's on your side. When they're asking you for these things, it's not for busy work and or anything. It's literally to protect you, and they know that they are garnering credibility when they walk in the courtroom, and that is to your benefit.
And if you're struggling with obtaining documents, then you're in the right place, because the right kind of law firm is going to say, well, we will help you. We will log into your accounts with you, for you. You'll have to give us the authentication code that it texts you, all the things. But the right lawyer is going to help you not feel so overwhelmed.
Absolutely.
But do be ready before mediations, especially in trials. You're going to have to give documents to update. And I love nothing more than having an opposing counsel who has not updated their documents. And yes, like Andy's saying, that makes makes our clients sometimes feel like, why am I providing all this when they still haven't given us the documents we asked for? And I'm like, we will handle that. But it indicates that they're not putting the work in like we are to go to court with an updated marital balance sheet. And honestly, if you want the most straightforward, productive results in court, successful results, hand off an accurate balance sheet from the very beginning. And you're going to have a judge that's a lot happier. Their mind is more organized. They can then fully focus on what's being said in court because they know they've got something that's organized. The numbers are done. They're not going to have to do all that themselves, which bad lawyering is going to create the need for a judge to have to do all that. So with that, we're going to let y'all just go continue to fantasize about marital balance sheets. We know that's what you want to go do. And we hope this is helpful to anyone listening who's in a time of need. And thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and share. The Hastings Shadmary Show is available on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, and iHeartRadio. Our email address is podcast@hsfamilylaw.com. Come find us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Hastings Shadmary.
The Hastings Shadmary Show is a production of Hastings Shadmary Family Law and 1066 Productions. It is produced and edited by Ned Hastings.